Stop scrolling. Because the reason you found this message today may be the very reason you have been feeling like something is missing. You have been asking God for a sign. You have been waiting for clarity. You have been wondering why the same thought keeps returning to your mind, no matter how many times you try to ignore it. And now you are here, not by accident. There are moments when God does not whisper softly. There are moments when He makes you stop, makes you listen, makes you face what you have been avoiding. And this may be one of those moments. You have delayed long enough. You have questioned long enough. You have told yourself that tomorrow will be easier, that you will respond when you are stronger, when you have more money, when you have more time, when the circumstances become perfect. But what if the reason you have been waiting for everything to become perfect is because God has been waiting for you to take the first step? You do not need to understand the entire journey. You only need enough courage to take the next step, because sometimes the answer does not appear before obedience. Sometimes the answer appears because you obey. Think about the moments when something inside you told you to move. You felt it. You knew something was changing, but fear convinced you to wait. You called it wisdom. You called it patience. You called it timing. But deep down you knew you were afraid. Afraid of losing what was familiar. Afraid of failing. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid that if you followed what God was placing in your heart, you might have to leave behind the version of yourself you had become comfortable with. But God is not calling you backward. He is calling you forward. And that is why your old life may feel uncomfortable now. That is why things that once satisfied you no longer feel the same. That is why you can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. That is why you can have a busy schedule and still feel empty. That is why you can ache, something you once prayed for, and still wonder why your heart is not at peace. Something deeper is asking for your attention. You have been functioning, but you have not been flourishing. You have been surviving, but you have not been living with the peace you once carried. And maybe God has been trying to show you that the problem is not that you are incapable. The problem is that you have been trying to move forward while carrying something He already asked you to release. There are doors you keep trying to reopen that God closed for your protection. There are relationships you keep trying to save that God allowed to end because they were draining your purpose. There are opportunities you thought you lost that God removed because they were not connected to your future. And there are moments you called rejection that were actually redirection. You asked why. God was preparing you. You asked when. God was strengthening you. You asked if He still heard you. He never stopped listening. The silence was not abandonment. The delay was not always denial. Sometimes the delay was preparation. Sometimes the closed door was protection. Sometimes the unanswered prayer was mercy. But there comes a moment when preparation has to become movement. And that moment may be now. You may have felt restless lately. The same conversation you know you need to have. You may have tried to distract yourself. You may have buried yourself in work. You may have filled every quiet moment with noise. But when everything becomes quiet, that thought comes back. Listen carefully. Do not automatically dismiss it. Take it to God. Pray about it. Seek wisdom. Ask for discernment. And then be willing to move when the direction becomes clear. Because clarity is not always a lightning bolt. Sometimes clarity is simply the peace that comes when you finally stop running from what you already know. You have spent enough time asking for another sign. Maybe the sign is that you are still here. Maybe the sign is that the same desire has survived every season. Maybe the sign is that every time you try to bury the dream, it comes back stronger. Maybe the sign is that your heart refuses to settle for the life you were never meant to live. Do not confuse fear with a warning from God. Fear can make every new beginning look dangerous. Fear can make obedience feel impossible. Fear can make comfort look like safety. But comfort and peace are not the same thing. You can be comfortable and completely out of alignment. You can be uncomfortable and still be exactly where God wants you to be. Think about Abraham. He had to leave what he knew before he saw where he was going. Think about Moses. He had to move before he felt qualified. Think about David. He had to trust a calling before everyone around him understood it. Faith has never required you to see the entire road. Faith requires you to trust the one who sees it. And maybe that is what you have been missing. You have been asking God to show you the whole plan. But He may be asking you to trust Him with the next step, one decision, one conversation, one act of obedience, one honest prayer, one beginning. That is how transformation starts. Not with everything changing overnight, but with you finally deciding that fear will no longer make your decisions for you. You have delayed long enough. You have negotiated long enough. You have waited for perfect conditions long enough. There will always be another reason to wait. There will always be another excuse. There will always be another fear. If you keep waiting until you feel completely ready, you may wait forever. You do not need to feel fearless. You need to become willing to trust, willing to listen, willing to release, willing to begin. And if this message is speaking directly to your heart, take a moment right now. Close your eyes if you can. Take a breath and say quietly, God, I am tired of running. I am tired of delaying. I am tired of pretending I do not know what you are asking me to face. Give me wisdom. Give me courage. Give me discernment. And give me the strength to take the next right step. Not the perfect step. Not the easiest step. The right step. Because I do not want fear to write the next chapter of my life. I want faith to write it. I do not want my past to decide my future. I want your purpose to decide it. I do not want disappointment to control my expectations. I want hope to return. I do not want confusion to rule my mind. I want clarity. I do not want anxiety to control my choices. I want peace, and I do not want to keep postponing what you are calling me toward. I am ready to listen. I am ready to move. I am ready to trust. And I am ready to begin. If you felt something while hearing those words, do not ignore it. Take that feeling into prayer. Write down what has been on your heart. Ask yourself what you have been avoiding. Ask yourself what decision you already know you need to make. Ask yourself what fear has been controlling you. And then ask God for wisdom about what comes next. Because your breakthrough may not begin with something happening around you. It may begin with something changing inside you. The moment you stop believing that you are stuck, the moment you stop waiting for someone else to rescue you, the moment you stop asking for permission to become who God created you to be, that can become the beginning of a completely different season. You may not see the whole path today, but you can see the next step. Take it. You may not know how everything will work out, but you can choose obedience today. Choose it. You may still feel afraid. Move with faith anyway. Because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is refusing to let fear control your direction. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of this decision. A version of you with deeper peace, stronger faith, greater clarity, more courage, more purpose. And perhaps the only thing standing between you and that version of yourself is the decision you keep postponing. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for every question to be answered. Stop waiting for everyone to understand. Stop waiting for fear to disappear. Take the next right step. Let God handle what you cannot control. Let Him open the doors that are meant for you. Let Him close the doors that are not. Let Him redirect you when you need redirection. Let Him strengthen you when the road becomes difficult. And let Him remind you that your story is not finished. You have survived things you once believed would destroy you. You have walked through seasons you thought would never end. You have cried prayers you could not put into words. You have carried burdens nobody else knew about. And you are still here. That means something. You are still standing. You are still searching. You are still hoping. You are still listening. And maybe this is the moment you stop looking backward. Maybe this is the moment you stop asking why everything happened the way it did. Maybe this is the moment you start asking what God wants to build from everything you have been through. Your pain was not the end of your story. Your delay was not the end of your story. Your disappointment was not the end of your story. Your failure was not the end of your story. Your rejection was not the end of your story. You are still becoming. You are still growing. You are still being prepared. And there is still more ahead. So walk forward. even if the step feels small, even if nobody applauds, even if nobody understands, even if you are still afraid. Walk forward, because one day you may look back at this exact season and realize that the moment you thought was ordinary was actually the moment everything began to change. The season of hesitation can end here. The season of hiding can end here. The season of constantly doubting yourself can end here. The season of postponing your obedience can end here. Not because everything suddenly became easy, but because you finally decided that fear would no longer have the final word. You do not need another sign. You need wisdom. You do not need another promise. You need action. You do not need to know everything. You need to trust God with what you cannot see. And you do not need to become someone else. You need to become more fully who God created you to be. Your next chapter is not waiting for a perfect version of you. It is waiting for a willing version of you. So breathe, pray, listen, and move. Your story is still being written. And this time, do not let fear hold the pen.